Hello everyone, and welcome to Program Your Life. This formula will absolutely change everything. Now, what formula am I talking about? See, it's interesting when you try and think of something. Literally, your thoughts can impact your health. Your thoughts can make you well. Your thoughts can make you sick. It can ramp up your immune system, or it can make your immune system weaker. And if we just follow a formula like that example with our thoughts, we can make amazing things happen. It's just as simple as that. So here's a video with Dr. Joe Dispenza on a formula that will instantly change your life once you do it. Let's jump right in.
Your body's a protein-producing machine, and muscle cells make muscle proteins. They're called actin and myosin. Skin cells make skin proteins. They're called collagen and elastin. Stomach cells make stomach proteins. They're called enzymes. And every cell in your body except red blood cells makes proteins, and proteins are responsible for structure, holding it together, and function and physiology, how we work. It's messengers, right? But in order for a cell to make a protein, a gene has to be regulated. So they used to say genes create disease. Well, you know this. Less than 1% of the people on the planet are born with a genetic health condition. Everything else is lifestyle. It's behavior. Right. It's stress. So then, is it possible then that if they say now, well, genes don't create disease, it's the environment that signals the gene that creates disease. Take two identical twins. Well, the environment was signaling the gene expression to make certain proteins, and the person develops a different condition because it's the environment that does that. But now here's the problem. But if the environment signals the gene, the outer environment of the cell is the inner environment of the body. And what is that? That's the emotions, or chemical, physical, and emotional balance that we have to maintain. So if a person's just constantly living in fear, and it's even if the environment is wonderful and they're on vacation and they keep remembering an event or anticipating a future and they're bringing up the emotion of anxiety and fear, it makes sense then that the person's signaling the gene outside of the outer environment because they're making the emotion in their inner environment, and there's no difference. And so if that happens, the constant effect by the hormones of stress downregulate genes and create disease. And if you can turn on that stress response just by thinking about your problems, then your thoughts are literally going to make you sick. Yeah. So if your thoughts can make you sick, can your thoughts make you well? And you cannot begin to see changes in a person's health until they stop regulating the same genes the same way, and they start up-regulating new genes and down-regulating old genes. And if they do that, they start producing different enzymes and different chemicals and different hormones, and their body begins to scale in a different direction. You want to talk about quantum superimposition? To me, if it has no effect on my life, I'm not interested. But if it has if there's a practical application, I'm interested in the practical application. So we look at I was going to say we have over 13,000 brain scans now. We look at real-time brain scans. I'm looking at your brain. In a 1 hour, an hour and 10-minute meditation, at certain moments, I'm watching what you're doing, if you can actually change your brain waves, and if you can sustain those changes, and can you do it again and make it a habit? Can you make it a skill? Can you repeat it enough times that you can do it more automatically? So I'm watching the words. We're watching the words that I'm saying. I'm not studying any tradition, any ancient scriptures. I think that the moment you start talking religion or tradition or scriptures or spirituality, you're going to divide an audience. I think science creates community. And so what we do is we look. We've actually created, when you see a person move into love or gratitude, and you see what that does to the brain in an instant, it informs the brain to be creative. When you see that and you see this dance between the two, you turn around and you look at that person and they got this big smile on their face. They're so in love with the moment, they don't want it to end. They're in and there's very strong biological changes. So we're looking at scans of hearts and brains. We're looking at collective scans of people just to see.
Welcome back, everyone. So I hope you can see the power of thoughts. Sometimes I used to think it's just a fleeting thought. What's the problem? Well, it's a fleeting thought. But then eventually those thoughts create a belief system, to create a roadmap for who I am. And when I do that with my past self, I continue to fall in these behaviors and program the subconscious mind. But when I start becoming aware of those thoughts, I can make some major changes.
If we can demystify the process, I don't want to shut an audience off with a word. I want to create new words that are science-based. So the meditations that we teach all have meaning behind what we're doing, because we've studied the scans and studied the effects, and it has certain intentions of why we're doing it. Whether we want to signal new genes, whether we want to, create more brain coherence, more heart coherence. We want to create coherence between the brain and the heart. I mean, what is it that we want to do? So we have different meditations, for different intentions, really. Again, a lot of times we have a community that definitely we're very interactive with, and one of the things that people kept saying is, okay, the science and the basic understandings, and then you get five meditations after a few of the courses. You practice one, and then you build on that, and you practice the next one, then you build on this, and you practice the next one, and you put it together, and the model just keeps expanding. So we wanted to make it something that was easy for people to wrap their mind around, and not too long and not too heady. So we did the formula. Dr. Joe Live is just a great thing that we do. It's an international service. We have a community of hundreds of thousands of people around the world, and one of the things is that people have questions, and the questions really are not about theoretical concepts, but more about the practical application. It's an opportunity for people to retreat from their lives for just a whole entire week and remove the constant stimulation in their external environment that reminds them of who they think they are, to separate themselves from all the people and places and things, and learn vital information, and then learn the science of how to change and learn the science of how to create a new life, and give people lots of opportunities. They're long days, they're full, and it's super transformative and fun, and we do a lot of scientific measurements there, of course, but you'll witness some of the most incredible miracles in a 1 week period of time. We just had a guy that was a veteran, a Green Beret, that had a lot of physical injuries and accidents, and had PTSD, had brain injuries. He had broken lots of parts of his body, and was pretty much suicidal at this point. And he went and had 2 knee replacements. And when he came out of the surgery, he said he felt like his feet were on fire, and after a couple months he asked the doctors to cut his feet off because he couldn't handle the pain, and they said, we can't guarantee that pain will go away because of phantom pain. So anyway, he came to the event, salt of the earth, ex-military guy, just wide open, doesn't know anything, just tell me what to do, perfect person. And he came in a wheelchair. His wife wheeled him in a wheelchair, and somewhere around the 3rd or 4th day, when we did our first laying down meditation, something really profound happened. He had one of those arousals, and he felt it move right through his autonomic nervous system, and an incredible amount of order. And when he opened his eyes, he had no pain in his feet after that moment. Now, within 2 hours, we were out there doing a walking meditation, and he went from his wheelchair to 2 crutches on the beach there. And sat out there, got in his heart, remembered that if he could feel the emotions of his future before it happened, his body would believe he's living in a different environment, a different reality. And this guy had nothing else to do. Nothing else was working, so he went all in. And then I see him out there the next day, Mark, and he's standing there with 1 crutch, with his hands, locked in over his crutch. And I'm just looking at him. The wind's blowing in his hair, and he's just, you could just tell this guy is hooked up. And there's 1,500 people on the beach, and he's right in front of me. You can ask anybody at this event. I turned around, and this guy was running down the beach. And the volunteer that, because with people with crutches or wheelchairs or handicapped, that we have volunteers, the volunteer is running after him. And then I see him run back, and there's no volunteer. He just dusted him. And he said he had connected to something so incredible, so big, that he felt like he was, literally born again. And to this day, he runs now. He has no pain. He has no depression. He has no suicidal tendencies. Amazing. I mean, he's in a new body. He's in a new life. Amazing. He's in a whole new future. And so you see those, and you just can't go back to business as usual. You just can't be the same person again. And then we do a lot of healings also on other people now, because in fact, we have universities now that are studying what we're doing, because our effects are so incredibly dramatic. And so we do a lot of coherence healings on other people, and again, studying the effects. We had random event generators in our last event measuring if we were creating huge fluctuations in the field. Of course, they were so obvious. I just looked at the data yesterday. And I love people to see it. I want people to see it. And if a person is part of someone else's coherence healing, I want them to know that they healed that person. I want them to know how powerful they are. And I don't care what they eat, what they believe in. I don't care where they're from, the color of their skin, how in shape, out of shape they are. I've talked to all of them. Nobody is excluded. That all forms and walks of life are doing this collectively, and it's becoming a new consciousness. And what I mean by that is, what I'm saying is, consciousness is awareness. The moment you become aware of possibilities that you are unaware of, now they exist. And that means that other people can step into those footprints, not just as a possibility, but witnessing the possibility in front of them as truth. Because the person who's standing on the stage, who's talking about how their stage 4 cancer went into remission, and there's no metastasis in any bone PET scan, and you can see the before and after, I'm looking at the audience, and everybody is leaning in. You know why? Because they're looking at truth. They're staring truth right in the face, and they can't deny it. And that person isn't telling a glamorous story. They're going to tell you the real facts of what happened to them, and it's going to be relatable. And so we have really compelling evidence in our scientific studies, and we have really compelling evidence in our testimonies of students in this work. And incredible. Evidence is the loudest voice, and that's what's going to make a difference.
Hello everyone. So that was such a powerful video by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It shows that no matter what your circumstances are, by changing what's going on within here, by holding that state in, forgetting about your past self, being present in the now and not affirming that old identity, you can create that new identity. So if you're sick, create that new identity of being well. If you're having trouble with finances, create that new self who is in absolute abundance. Relationships, create that new self who is loved. It is all possible, because no matter what your circumstances are, by changing your old self, not affirming your past, but creating a vision of the future and holding that, you start to change reality. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next